Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Devin Sears, and I'm joined by my friend and colleague, Christian Torres. And today we are talking about updating and maintaining your WordPress website and everything that goes along with that. So real quick, before we jump into the content, as usual, I'd like to introduce our guest, Christian Torres. He's one of our account executive for our agency department, and I've had the joy of traveling with him, working with him, and I have loved to see the passion and experience that he has for helping people build a successful website. And so I'm very excited to have him with us here today. As always, I am Devin Sears. I will be your co-host. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to drop them in chat, which brings us to today's housekeeping issues. First of all, if you can hear us, find the chat, as I mentioned before, and let us know where you're tuning in from and how many webinars you've tuned into from Bluehost. And that lets us know that our audio is transmitting. That lets us know where our audience is tuning in from, which we always love to see. And yeah, if you don't mind just dropping that in chat, we love to see that. Next to the chat tab, there's a slightly darker tab that says Q&A, or lighter tab that says Q&A. If you have questions throughout the webinar, please don't hesitate to ask them. If you ask them in that Q&A tab, we can have a little bit of a threaded back and forth, which makes things a little bit easier to troubleshoot if we need to. You can also ask questions in the chat. Depending on what the question is, I might move it from the chat to the Q&A tab. So if you see your question disappear, I'm not deleting it. I'm just relocating it to the Q&A tab in case we need to have a little bit more of a back and forth in our response. If you are tuning in from a mobile device, oftentimes the stream is muted. So please click anywhere on the screen to unmute the stream, and that should allow you to hear us. If at any point you're looking for a little bit more assistance, then at the top of the chat, there should be a button that you can click that gets us off to one of our WordPress experts where you can have a little bit more of a one-on-one experience. It is a paid service, but it is something that we're happy to help people if they just need a little bit more one-on-one assistance. Also, the number one question that we always get is, will this be recorded and will we be getting a copy of the recording? The answer is yes. Everyone that registered for the webinar, we will be sending out a copy of the replay in the next 24 to 48 hours. Also, I will be off camera and off microphone doing my best to respond to questions that are coming up in chat in the Q&A tab. If there are questions that I don't know the answer to or that I think would benefit the entire audience, then I will hold those for the end and we'll have a Q&A. So if you have any questions, if you have a situation that you'd like our thoughts on, please don't hesitate to drop that in the chat in the Q&A, and I will do my best to answer, and we'll hold some questions for the Q&A at the end. So I believe that gets us up to date on housekeeping. So that brings us to the quote of the webinar, which is this: there are two kinds of website owners, those who back up and those who wish they had. And I think this speaks to just one of the simple maintenance practices, which is you need to be backing up your website regularly, because inevitably there's going to be something that happens on your website where you want to restore from a backup. Whether it's a faulty plugin or theme, or it's a hack, or it's a client that gets into your website, or maybe you got into your website and you thought you were making a change somewhere and it ends up messing up other things. If you have a backup, that's an easy fix. If you don't, you might wish that you had. So talking about everything that we'll be covering, backup for sure is one of them. But first of all, we're going to get into why we are running updates and why regularly scheduled maintenance matters. We're going to go through a quick daily, weekly, monthly checklist. And we're also going to cover a few tools that make life easier when we're running this. And then we're also going to go into some common mistakes to avoid and some workflows that are going to save you some time, hopefully. And at the end, we're going to end with a small maintenance playbook before jumping into our Q&A. So we're going to cover a lot today. I'm very excited to have you with us. We want these to be educational and engaging for you. So if at any point you have topics that you'd like us to go more in depth into, then please don't hesitate to drop that into the chat or to let us know. And with that, I believe I've covered all the housework, which means, Christian, it is time for you to teach us about maintenance and updates.
All right. Thank you so much, Devin. A little bit about me before we get into it. I bring a really nice perspective here where I'm not a WordPress developer. I've been in support in the past. I did that for a bunch of years, and I currently do now, like Devin said, I speak with digital agencies and see what they're looking for, what their clients are asking for, and what they really need. I bring this up because there's always the two types of conversations where, if you are working in support, you get that question of something bad happened and I need your help. And how did this happen? And the other side now is more of to make sure this doesn't happen. Make sure you do these things so you and your customer have a really good workflow. So I'm going to speak a little bit to both of the both different sides on how to prepare for it and sometimes what to do even when you've done everything you need to do to be able to fix that and move forward. Here in this first chapter, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about why updates and maintenance matter. This is very important for websites in this day and age. Gone are the times of actually talking about sites that were dynamic and didn't move. Static and didn't move, and dynamic. Back in 1998, when you put up a website and it was just HTML and CSS, it was fine. You didn't need to update it outside of changing any copy. Websites nowadays are very, very dynamic. They have a lot of moving parts. If you're using WordPress, more than likely you're using a good amount of plugins that all need to be separately maintained and work in its own little ecosystem. So it's very important to understand why this is important, because just because your site, you may go to www.christianshorus.com and it may pop up and it looks good. And if I sell webinars, and I don't see anything bad happening, I'm thinking, great, everything's happening. But there's a very big invisible risk here. And this is caused by a couple of different things. And we'll talk a little bit about them as we kind of go. The biggest one that you're going to be more susceptible to potentially is outdated plugins. If you don't know what a plugin is it is the mechanism that a WordPress site uses to have some sort of a functionality. Some of the more common ones are going to be plugins like contact forms, WooCommerce, so anything to actually sell products and make orders for customers, to photo sliders, you name it. If it could be done on a website, 99.9% sure that there's a plugin out there for it, which sounds great. But it can also be something that can hurt you down the line. So if I make a plugin 5 years ago that I was really excited about a really cool contact form that had a really great CAPTCHA, but I got busy and I stopped updating it. Time is going to go by where as more and more of these threats come to WordPress, these hackers and people that are looking to get into your website for different reasons, they're going to see that my plugin hasn't been updated in 4 years. They're going to go and look at it and find those vulnerabilities. Once they do that, it's going to be really easy for them to find websites that are using that plugin and go exploit them. So even though you may be doing everything that we're going to talk about here on this webinar, if I, as a plugin developer, didn't do my job to make sure that it is constantly being updated, it's going to potentially cause you a lot of risk. Think of the very simple way of it is, if it is a contact form, somebody could easily put in there, hey, when you email it to Christian, also email it to me. So now your potential customer information could be going to them, which may not be the end of the world, but think of it if you're taking orders, if you are getting sensitive information, that kind of stuff is going to be very, very important. So this is why some of the things we're going to talk about today when it comes to plugins are very important to make sure that they are as up to date as possible. And if they are not being updated, again, the great thing with WordPress is that somebody's probably doing something very similar to it and probably more recent. The second part that's going to potentially get you is going to be themes. So again, going with what a WordPress site is, when you install WordPress, it comes with a normal theme. But let's say you have a doctor's office and you want a theme that looks like most doctor's office websites. You can go and purchase one, install it on there. Next thing you know, it looks like you have a really beautiful website. Sometimes they come with their own plugins. Sometimes they come with their own looks where you can just go in there, change colors, add copy. Over a weekend, if you're a beginner, you may have a whole website built pretty quickly, which is really great. And you're going to want to think, okay, great. I spent that weekend building that website. I'm done. Let me go and just take in orders. Let's bring in more customers, so on and so forth. And then you forget to keep up on that theme. In the same way that plugin could be exploited by old code, themes will get exploited that way. There are hackers out there that are literally just going page by page code, line of code by line of code to find that little bit of exploit that they can take advantage of. And then again, it's very simple for somebody to say, find me a list of sites that use so-and-so theme. They go in there and do what they're going to do. And again, sometimes they just are looking to use your website for resources. And sometimes it's going to be a lot worse where they're actually looking to steal information from you and your customers. And you definitely don't want that ever. So this is to kind of summarize all of that. About 40% of all sites that were hacked were doing it, but this was happening by outdated software. That's very, very manageable. Just making sure that a site is within a month even of having latest releases is going to help you tremendously. You can imagine the other 60% are potentially going to be bad passwords, lack of being able to log in and reset those passwords. So there's a lot of other things you need to do, but these are the easy ones there. 2 different things that you do here is going to affect you pretty greatly to ensure that this is not going to be affecting you. And this is another thing here, that updates aren't always for new features, they patch holes. What this means is you get a notification from that contact plugin updates. This is actually a security update. And a good way to know this is you'll see 3 numbers. It'll say contact plugin 1.0.1. If there are 2 dots afterward, the 2 dots and a number, that is a security plugin. You want to install that one as soon as possible. This is a very common thing that plugin and theme developers do. So anytime you see a number, install it right away. They are telling you, we found something here. This is going to be for the security side of it, versus if it was a feature update. Again, using the contact plugin as an example, it may say, well, for this new update, we're going to be able to add the ability for somebody to put in their address and map it onto a map. Then that would be number. They may add a bunch of different things. Those are, I would not call them optional, but they're going to be potentially more feature oriented than security update. So that's a very quick way. Again, if it says number, security update, install it right away. Number, it's probably a package one that they come out once a year or so. Read them. If you see anything that security updates in there as well, you want to go ahead and update them, and we'll talk more about how to do that safely here in a little bit. So let's talk about the mindset you need to have good maintenance. You want to think of your website as a car, right? You have a car, there's different things you have to do. Once you drive it off the lot, doesn't mean that that's the end of your job. Think of the updates as the oil change, something that has to happen routinely and on a timely manner, or on an actual amount of time that you need, amount of time or amount of miles. Same thing. If you're doing a lot of plugin updates, if you're adding a lot of different plugins, that's like adding that 3,000 miles onto the car. That's a good time to go check for updates. Your backups is going to be your insurance. We know things happen. You want to be able to have a backup plan anytime something does happen. It makes you feel a lot safer out on the road, so on and so forth. So that's where you want to make sure that you do that. And then the optimization is that regular tune-up, right? That's the, I want to change my tires to snow tires because I live out in the Northeast, and it's going to allow me to have a much better experience, and then switch them back to my regular ones during the spring and summer, those kind of things. Just anything that you're trying to put onto your car just to make it a little bit better, that's going to be the optimization. That's okay, it's running, but can it run better? That's a really quick way to do that. So if you have a good maintained site, it's going to mean it's going to have a longer life and fewer emergencies. This is really important because when you do get a site, and I've seen this more than I care to remember, sites where they are infected to the point where they have to start over. The people that are doing these bad things to websites know what they're doing, and they put things that may be invisible, even if you're cleaning it out. And it's really hard to know for a fact. And if anybody tells you, great, I cleaned it, it's 100% gone, and you'll never see it again, they're probably not being very genuine. They're hoping, but you just never know. So if you do get a site that has been really infected, it's almost going to be better just to start over. Think about what happens when you do get in a bad accident and a car gets totaled. Sure, somebody can put in $50,000 on a $10,000 car, but are you going to have the best result? Nope. That's when insurance companies say, okay, you know what, we're actually just going to scrap this and start over. So very, very similar mindset that you have there. All right, let's get a little interactive here. In the chat, if you can go in there and tell us how many of you ignored updates for over a month. And be honest, I can tell you that I have. And it could be, I look at it on a Monday morning and I say, oh goodness, I have to go do some updates, but I know it's going to take me 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but I'd rather go do something that I think is more important. I've done that. So if you have done that for over a month, just go ahead and just put yep, that was me, and let us know and be honest. It's okay, because you just got to put your little note and let us know that that's happening. So hopefully now we start building better habits. So in this chapter, we're going to talk about that checklist to make sure that that doesn't happen on a monthly basis, on a daily basis, even quarterly or even annual. So let's go ahead and get into that. This is the daily stuff. I know you may be thinking, I'm really busy. I'm starting this website because I'm a small business owner. I'm wanting to go sell these items to my company, to my customers. I don't have time to go and see if things are being optimized and see if my plugins are updated, so on and so forth. And when I say these 2 to 3 minutes, it doesn't mean that it's actually you doing them, but that's how long it actually takes. If you have a website, especially if you're just starting off and you're a beginner, it's a good idea to go to the website once a day. Just look at it. Is it loading? Is it loading fast? Are you getting errors? Some of the common errors you may get on a WordPress site may be something like an error 500, error 503. You may just get a white page, the white page of death. So look at those things, right? Especially if you don't have some sort of an uptime monitor, like Uptime Robot, where that one's doing that automatically. So if you just don't have the time to just go to your website, install something like Uptime Robot to do that for you. Then what they do is they send you an email, hey, your site didn't load today. And it allows you to kind of go do that. So again, it's good for you to go and take a look at it. Sometimes things may change here and there. So, taking a quick look isn't going to take so much time. So, but again, there are many, many tips on doing that. So again, simple maintenance. We're talking about something like you do at home every day. It's brushing your teeth. So while you're brushing your teeth, so let me go look at the website. Let me look at my most important pages, which are going to be my contact us page, which is going to be my checkout page. Just look at them and see if something's going on. There are strange things that happens with so much code on a website. It's always a good idea to make sure that that you're checking on that. So now the weekly habits. I call these like the Saturday morning things that you want to do, right? You're maybe not working the way you typically would. So Saturday, let's open it up. Do the things you did for the daily ones. Go open it up. Now maybe you check the website all the way through, maybe your top 10 pages that you expect traffic to. Make sure images are loading correctly, so on and so forth. Then you log into the backend of WordPress. This is the WP admin side of it. And what you'll see on the left-hand side is going to be a bunch of different items. But when you see the plugins and appearance and themes, you'll more than likely see a red number. That's telling you that something needs to be updated. You can go in there, open it up, take a look at the things that you have there. And at least this is the part where you're just saying, okay, great, I have three plugins that are 1.1.1 that I'm going to have to go and update here shortly, because I know it's a security plugin and only one that is a just feature only, that is for something more complex that I want to make sure I speak to my developer about. This is just you're gathering information here. So before you do anything, this is really, 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 really important, is you back up your website. If you don't have a backup and something happens to it, there's just nothing you can do about it. You can't go back to a snapshot. So when you are looking for a host, if you don't already have one, find one that either does this automatically, or at least they have the ability for you to purchase a different tool that is going to do this. A lot of the most common ones with the way they're going to work is you can set them up to work at 2 a.m. where it does a copy of your website when less people are actually using it. It doesn't affect the performance, but you can assume that nobody's working on the website, so it's going to be the freshest one. And again, Saturday morning, you're about to do some plugin updates, some content changes. You can go in there. It's a one button to say, back up my site now. Does that, you get that gratification to say, okay, I hope nothing bad happens, but if it does, I have a place to go to. And again, like I mentioned, go try the different checkouts. If you're selling a product on your website, go all the way through checkout and make sure there are no errors. I was just working with a customer last week that was saying that their business is down because they are not getting any more contact us, and they think that they have an SEO problem. We went through the workflow of trying to book an appointment and get some information. When you clicked on the submit now, it just blanked out. You didn't get a confirmation number. You didn't get a confirmation notification. And when we checked on the plugin, and the email, nothing was going through. So this, it was the doctor's office. This doctor's office went about 6 weeks without getting any notifications that people were looking to book appointments. And this was, as you can imagine, because a plugin that was no longer working, because it was about 2 years too old, and it wasn't compatible with WordPress and PHP. So we'll talk more about that. So just test everything, test the things that you know are mission critical. If you have a brick and mortar store, think of it as making sure your door is unlocked when somebody's trying to come in, that your lights are on, all the different things that you expect to happen when somebody's coming into your office or your business. Make sure that they're working on your actual website. Do this every Saturday. Give yourself the ability to know that everything's working. All right, another question here. If you had 5 minutes today, what is the first thing you would do to go check on your website? I'm curious to see what kind of what kind of answers we're going to have here. I'd imagine we're going to see somebody saying, "Oh, I'm going to go make sure my images are up to date," or "I'm going to go change the hours of operation that I have," or maybe that's what it is when you're going to finally now going to go and check on your plugins and your themes. That's all it really takes, just 5 minutes. So here's, I'm going to be watching here on what answers you give us. Okay, now we're talking first of the month. Come through, and as you can tell here, there's a pattern that we'll talk more about here in a little bit on just making these things routine. Every company has their own routine for everything they do, to be successful. So this isn't unique to that. This is just unique now to a different aspect of your website. So now you've been doing your daily check-ins. You've had 4 weeks of making sure everything's up to date. Your plugins are up to date. Your theme is up to date. Now we can really go and dive in and see how your site's actually performing. There are a lot of different tools out there that do this for you. A lot of them are going to be free for 1 or 2 scans a month, so on and so forth. So if you only have one site, you don't even need, as a beginner, you don't even need to go and pay for this. But different companies like PageSpeed Insights and GT Metrics, they're really great. You just put in your domain into the search, and it's going to go and do a lot of checking. Some of the stuff you're going to see there is it's going to tell you about optimization. If you have 10 images on your site and they're not optimized, and each one is 20 megabytes, and your site's loading very slowly, it's because it's a lot of data to do. So it'll tell you, hey, optimize these, and there's a lot of different ways to do that. We won't get into that on this program, since it's a little bit more towards beginners, but there are a lot of different ways to do that. So you don't have to just say, great, well, let me just delete it. If I delete my images, everything's going to work just fine. We don't need to go down that route. You can just make the different changes. It'll tell you if your code is not optimized. It'll tell you if your server isn't working very well. So like the response time, that may be a time where you may say, wow, I'm on a shared environment and I need my site to load faster because my competitor has sites that load faster. Maybe it's time for you to look at a different plan that is going to be a little bit more optimized for specifically WordPress websites. So you want to do that, take a look at it. Take a log of this, take a screenshot, put it in a folder so you can compare it month after month. It's easy for you just to kind of take a look at it, especially if you aren't going to do anything about it. Maybe you're just gathering some information for a quarterly review with your developer or with yourself. So you can take a look at that and see how things are working. And then, of course, always go and make sure you're logging what you're doing to the website. So if your site is starting to perform less and less, but you're adding videos, images, you're not optimizing your plugins and your themes, it's going to be very clear on what the result's going to be. And then this is where you go into more of the under the hood part of the monthly habits. So again, using the weekly plans that you had, you started seeing that maybe some of these plugins that you had, you're not using anymore, and you just deactivated them. You think, great, they're not active. Doesn't mean that it means that they can't hurt me. Or the themes, I was trying a bunch of different ones. So I have 5 different themes installed, but only 1 activated. It's a good idea to go and remove the ones you're not going to use, because it is still code on your website. I want to make sure I stress that for those that are just starting out there. If you are going through and building a website and you want to try 3 contact plugins, 3 gallery viewers, 4 different themes to see which ones work, and then you finally settle in on what you want, remove what you have there, because that is still code on there, and it is just as easy for somebody to go into and use that code, get into your website, and you're in big trouble. So think of it as a numbers game. The more plugins and themes you have installed, the more possibility that you can get hacked, or you may just have slow performing websites. And of course, go and check on your galleries and your videos. So maybe you were trying different images for Christmas and you're not using them anymore, and those products are now gone. Delete them. This, the more optimized site you have, the better it's always going to be. So again, this is just a quick way just to make sure you can check if your site is healthy. And I know this sounds like a lot. It's pretty scary, but these are the things that if you do this, you're going to be a much happier business owner when you are going through this. All right, chapter 3. We talked a lot about some of the things that we need to do. Now let's talk about the tools that are going to help us do this. We're going to go in the order of the way we should have our workflow. So if you remember, what we said first is we were going to back up. These are just two that we know of. Updraft Plus and BlogVault are very good set and forget automations where then, like I mentioned, you can set up the time where you want this to happen. So if you're overseas and you want it to happen at a different time for you outside of when the server is going to do it, you can go ahead and set that up there. And again, when you're ready to back up right then and there, you can. Worst comes to worst, something happened to your site, the plugin update kind of broke it, you got that white page of death. You can go into your dashboard and say, hey, get me back over to my last known backup. And hopefully that was right before you started working, and just brings it right back. It's literally, the Man in Black little device where, forgets everything. So you can go back there and know that, you got the peace of mind to be able to do that. So these are just two. A lot of reputable hosting providers are going to do this on their own, and you still are going to have the one-click restore. Again, if you don't have this, if something happens, it's almost impossible to get any help. If that happens, you may want to open up a support ticket with that host. Most of them will have a server-side backup, but know that there isn't a guarantee that it was last night. It could have been from 3 weeks ago. It could be from a month ago. So you really want to be proactive here and make sure that you find one that's going to do what you're looking for. All right. We haven't even spoken about how to stop these different vulnerabilities when they are on your website. This isn't I hope I don't get infected. If I do, then that's the end of it. That's not how this works. These are just two that we know of that are not involved here with Bluehost. WordPress is one that's been around for a very, very, very long time. They're going to have very similar DNA to when you have an antivirus on your computer. They go in and find out where the vulnerabilities are, put them into a repository, scan your website. If they find those, they can, at the very least, will notify you. And depending on their pricing tiers, they'll get rid of them as well. But at least you can go in there and find them, because one of the questions you're probably going to get here in the Q&A is going to be, how do I know if I've been infected? In the 90s, it was kind of funny because you would get a little, guy jumping around your website saying, I infected you, right? They were doing it mostly for fun. That doesn't happen anymore. These guys do not want you to know that they have taken control or are using your website for something. So you need something to proactively go and find them. So again, these will give you notifications to at least let you know. Again, sometimes it could just be, hey, there's something wrong here. You may need to, to make some changes. One thing you may do at that point is, if you got it from one day to the other, you could potentially go and just restore back to a previous backup. I would go a few more days, maybe even a few weeks, because you really never know when they landed on your website and when they activated. It isn't very, you can't say for sure that if you got infected on a Tuesday that they landed on your website on that Monday. They could have been there for a while. They do put different tools on there just to say, don't do anything yet. I want to make sure that the coast is clear, then they activate it. So yeah, you want to make sure that you do that. And then of course, when we're talking about the password part of it, you want to have some login protection. So anyone can go in here and say, unfortunately, a lot of people use admin as the admin user and would just sit there and try a bunch of different simple passwords to do that. So you want to make sure that you have a tool that is going to keep you keep somebody from doing that. Otherwise, they'll just run that tool within your website. It's very, very mean how they do that. They use your own resources against you to use those brute force attempts. And then once they have access to it, guess what they're going to do? They're going to delete the other users, and they have full control of your site. So these are very simple things. Think about it. I like the way you log into your computer. You do it more than 5 times, you're more than likely going to get locked out for an hour. You want to have something like that for your website as well. Okay, performance tools. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. Number one, there are a lot of them out there. They will do different things for different sites. There are sites that would just say, we're just going to speed it up by giving it resources. They are the ones that are going to minify different resources. Minify means that they're going to take that 20 megabyte file that I was telling you about on your image, and then they're going to make it 2 megabytes. They're going to make it smaller without losing any sort of quality. And that's the site that is the image that is going to be served on the website. So you can upload a 20 megabyte file and you're only serving a 2 megabyte file. It looks just as good, but things are going to be smaller. So those are the really fun ones to use, as well as ones that are just going to go and look at the different plugins and prioritize how they use the resources. I know this sounds kind of technical, but if you look at some of the most reputable ones, they do a really great job of just trying not to get in the way. Now, let me give you my my tip of the day. You may think, great, let me use both. I will use Lightspeed Cache, I will use WP Rocket, and my host has its own optimization. 3 tools is going to make my site 3 times as fast. It is not true. It is actually going to more than likely slow down your site. I know it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but think of them as, you know, kind of these superheroes kind of fighting each other for the rights to work on your website. So for this one, you absolutely want to go and do your research, see what you want to do. Again, ask your host first to see if they have their own optimization tools. Here at Bluehost, we do have some, depending on the plan that you get into, so you won't even need to do that. That is a very common thing that I talk to with agencies when they're coming from another host, is ask, hey, how are you doing your performance tool situation? When I hear this kind of stuff, again, depending on the product they're going to, you will tell them, uninstall them. We have our own here. So take a look at them. This is going to be really important. I can't even tell you how many times I've seen websites where they have had 5 or 6 of them, and then as soon as you turned off 4 of them, the site instantly starts going up. So just make sure that's the tip of the day. Hopefully we can keep up with any of the stuff I'm going through. That's one of those. A CDN. Let's talk about a CDN. CDN is a content delivery network. Your site may be hosted in Dallas, and your clients may be in the UK. You may think, wow, that they're going to have a slower loading site, which is true, but not by a lot. Obviously, the internet's quite fast out there, especially where everything's optimized. So what a CDN is, it delivers your content locally across the globe. But last time I checked, I think it was about 28 different servers that a company like Cloudflare has. So what that does, it's really cool. Each one of those servers goes to that source where your website is. It picks up a copy of it and it puts it into that server. So if somebody is trying to serve your website from the UK, they instantly get that version there. And the Cloudflare is going to do that on a regular basis to make sure that they're getting the most up-to-date site. They also have other really cool features like keeping different people from doing the attacks where they're trying to hit your site multiple times till it goes down. Since the CDN is going to help, it's going to do some IP changes. And again, this is a little technical. You can always talk to your hosting provider about this. They can also give you some of that security to do that. So Cloudflare is one of my favorites, if not my favorite, when it comes to CDN. Again, different hosts may be already using that, so always go and talk to them first to ensure you're not purchasing something that you don't need. And for performance, right, we want to make sure that your user is satisfied as much as possible. We want to make sure that they have an SEO boost. So there's different tools out there that you can do. We're not going to get too much into that because that really is going to be just what kind of flavor do you like. So then we can get that feedback on your pages on why your site isn't being looked at by Google. Is it because it's really slow? Do you not have any local content? So on and so forth. All right, we hit a couple of these already, but I want to try to make sure that we talk about them. These are the commonest mistakes to avoid. We talked about it again, but by design, we want to bring this up a couple times. Updating without a backup. What may happen is if you get that white screen and your site's broken, that just literally means that that maybe that plugin isn't up to date with your PHP version or WordPress. Again, kind of technical, but if any of those steps are not working. So even let's say your plugin is now up to date, but your PHP version is 7.4 and it should be 8.0 for that plugin to run. You're going to get more than likely these type of errors, and that's where you want to make sure that you can just restore back to it. So you want to go one step by one step. So you want to back up first, and then you want to update second, not the other way around. Too many plugins. About $1 every time I've seen this. Again, because a lot of them are free. And so people just want to have them on there and kind of change them as they need to. totally fine. The good thing is there's a really great repository where all these plugins are. So you don't need to have them on your website. You can always find them through there. And again, the more plugins you have, the higher chance there's going to be a conflict, especially if you are turning them on, like I mentioned there with those different performance plugins, or even if you just have them on there, you have code that is liable to be hacked there. So you always want to keep less is more. I don't typically see a site that needs more than 20 plugins. If you think of all the different functionalities a normal website is going to have, there aren't 20 different things that are happening on a website. You're going to have your contact forms, you can have your e-commerce component, you're going to have maybe some image galleries, you're going to have your backup one, and maybe even a performance one, and a few more, but you shouldn't have more than 20. If you have more than 20, and even if they're needed, that's going to just add more and more to the time that you have to update your website, and potentially, give more abilities to these hackers to go and find them. You want to make sure you get quality over quantity. Biggest thing you're going to see is when you go and look at these plugins, you're going to look for a couple of different things. How long this plugin has been around. I would stay away from any plugin that is younger than 6 months. You just don't know what kind of support they're going to have. If it hasn't been updated in more than probably 3 months, you want to at least go and check to see why it hasn't been updated. And you want to see how many people have downloaded this plugin. If you see that this plugin's only been downloaded 10 times, WordPress is the highest content management system out there. If it's only been downloaded 10 times, more than likely there's a reason for that. So you want to go and find some of the popular ones. Again, for every major functionality, you're going to have 5 to 10 that to choose from. So stick to those. This is not one of those times where we're going to go into a few pages down. Ignoring warnings. I can also tell you I've been to many dashboards where you start seeing a bunch of different warnings. PHP is not up to date. WordPress isn't up to date. All that stuff, right? That is not good. That is, again, your site may be working. You may say, why do I need to update it? It's going to be for that vulnerability, right? So you want to make sure that that you're taking advantage of that. What you don't want to do, this is what I've seen as well quite too many times, is say, okay, it's Saturday morning, let's just update everything. Even if you have a backup ready to go, if you say update PHP to the newest version, let's update WordPress, let's update my themes and all my plugins at the same time, I'm going to bet that something's going to happen to your site that isn't going to be good. So you want to go little by little. It may be fine, but even then, what you want to do is you want to go one thing at a time to ensure that if something happens, you know what that trigger was. My recommendation is going to be to keep your PHP version up to date, so that's always there. But if you are going to go do a maintenance day, start with that one first. Get it to the most up-to-date one, but go step by step. For example, again, this is just a little bit kind of into the weeds, but just so you can see how it would work. If you're on PHP 7.3, don't go all the way to 8.4 right away. Go to 7.4. See if that worked out. Go to the next one up. So slowly, gradually make yourself up there. So if you do know that something does happen, it was when I went from this version to that version, and that's going to give you some good troubleshooting things to do. So you can say, this plugin over here doesn't work unless it's to this version, or if it's too old, you have that information. So just, even though it's real tempting, and I've done it before, trust me, it's real tempting just to say, okay, let's just update everything. Everything should work. Take your time, sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and go one step at a time to make sure that, as you're testing them, you can make sure that everything's working. And you want to do this on a staging environment first. Most hosting providers are going to have a staging environment. If you have a website where you have customers that are constantly going there to purchase stuff, you don't want to do that, right? Think about doing a renovation on your store while people are still in there. You want to do that when the store is closed. So what you want to do is you want to go and go into the staging site, go do those changes there. So then if something happens, you can always delete that staging site, start over, and go from there. It's just going to help you from having a lot of hours of just fixing stuff down the road. All right. Let's kind of try to wrap this up here with how to make sure that we're doing this. So we just talked about that. You're going to do a site, you're going to clone it, you can test the updates. If it works well, you're going to push it up. Here at Bluehost, we have that on all of our plans, one way or the other, where you can say, great, I'm going to go do my monthly stuff. I'm going to go build a staging site. And then literally what it's doing is just doing a carbon copy, putting it on a test URL, so it's not affecting your customers. You can delete it, you can make it, you can mess it up. It's not going to affect your customers. Once you get it to the point where it's nice and set up, you just hit push live and then it sets it up there. So just think of it as your practice arena. That's where you can go in there and do different things. But it's not going to affect your website. You want to make sure that you are, again, backing up before. So in case something happens where you maybe push it up too quickly and it sends all those different things back, you can back up there. So as you can see, we're doing a lot of preventative work here. Okay, there's a lot we talked about here. There are a lot of stuff here that could be automated. Again, some of the stuff, just to remind you, when I schedule those backups at night, depending on your host, there are auto updates for trusted plugins. So you can give that host to say, hey, for these plugins, just update them whenever it's available. I have that here at Bluehost when I'm using my website. And so I'll get an email saying, hey, this plugin was updated last night. Right. And so it lets me know that if I do, when I'm brushing my teeth, checking my website and something is down, hey, it may have been that plugin that was updated last night. Let me go take a look at it. Wow. Yeah, it turns out it was. Let me go ahead and fix it with my backup and dive into it down the road. Again, that's why it's really important to have backups, and you should have the ability to say, I don't want that if you have, let's say, a mission critical website. So totally up to you, but you can at least automate that on your staging site as well. So you can know that, see how it works, and then move on. Putting everything together, like we mentioned, we want to back up. So we want to use something like Updraft Plus or Blog Vault if your hosting provider doesn't immediately already have a solution for you. For security, WordFence and iThemes is going to be what you would look at. My recommendation is just WordFence. They just have been around for a long time. And on the performance plugin, again, you only want to have one. If your hosting provider doesn't already have some sort of a caching solution included, then I would recommend WP Rocket there. And again, having a staging environment either by your host that it's going to be on your dashboard, or you can do it via a plugin. That's what Blog Vault can do, is create you a different environment there. And just again, think of it one for each of these different core technologies, because you don't want to conflict there. Okay, so I have homework for everybody here. Before you log off here and start going and updating plugins, I want you to write down your daily, your weekly, and your monthly list now. I want you to go install one backup solution if you don't already have one, and one security tool. Again, check with your hosting provider. They may already have something, so you won't need to do that. And you want to trust that hosting provider if they already have one, because they are more than likely optimizing it really well for them. And again, we're going to say this probably 5 more times before today's over, is going to be to do your first manual backup before you do anything, to ensure nothing is going to be unrecoverable. So let's do a quick recap here before we go into the Q&A. Your updates are going to help with preventing any sort of catastrophic problems with your website. So you want to make sure that you keep that up to date. But before that, you want to back up to get that insurance, to know that I can make the different changes that I need to. And if I make a mistake, or if something doesn't work, if something conflicts, I can always go back to it and use the tools that are out there. Like we said, WordPress is very, very well maintained. So there are a lot of time savers out there. So some of the ones that we spoke about. And then just have the maintenance. If you're doing maintenance, then you know for sure that you're doing everything you can to make sure that your website, which is going to be that digital storefront for you, if that's what you're using it for, is going to be working. You can do the different things that you would for another, for anything that you have there on an actual storefront. So Devin, we have wrapped up here our master class on making sure your website is updated and working well. Do we have some questions that we need to knock out?
Awesome. Yes. Thank you so much. We have a couple questions, and we've got about 15 minutes to get through them. So I think we are doing just fine on time. So let's see. The first question that I want to ask you is, if my site breaks after an update, how do I restore it quickly? And I'm going to add to that. And how do I know what broke it?
Yeah, well, we'll go ahead and kind of recap that a little bit there. So you want to know what you're going to do before you do it. You can't just do a bunch of stuff and then that's where the biggest error is going to be, where you don't actually know. So go one by one. First, you want to go back up and confirm that you have that backup, either that you just created right then and there, or the one that was created right before. Go do that step, update that contact form plugin. If something breaks, that's how you're going to tell. So that's where you really want to make sure that you're not updating 5 different plugins at a time. There is a button in the plugin page that says update all. Don't use it because if something happens, then you don't know which one broke it. More than likely, you have to contact support so they can And this is where it takes, you can say goodbye to a few hours of your day. They're going to have to deactivate all the plugins and one by one turn them on until something breaks, and that's how you'll actually know. So the site is the good thing is your site's going to be very responsive to let you know when something isn't working, but you want to do it one step at a time to ensure that that you know what's happening.
Awesome. Okay, the next question here is, how do I know if my site has already been hacked or compromised?
Yeah, this is gonna change every single day. I've seen a lot of different things. Like I mentioned, there are still some hackers out there that are quite bold, and they're taking over your website and are going to, let's say, give a ransom for you to get it back. You'll see a message on your header, literally when you go to that website when you're brushing your teeth, that says, "Hey, Devin, your site is now ours. Contact this number if you want to get it back." That's going to be the most obvious one. Doesn't happen a lot. It's going to happen, mostly to real large businesses, but you just never know. So that may be what's happening. You may start getting reports of a slow website. If you're getting a slow website, the reason there's a bunch of reasons why that could happen outside of when we're talking about security ones. Sometimes these hackers are using your site for their resources. So they don't care about your contacts. They don't care about your customers. They're not trying to take it away. They actually just want to use that resource. And what they're doing is using your website, your server, to go to other websites, make different changes to theirs, attack other websites. So if your site, this is happening quite a bit, from like 8:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. is slowing down dramatically. That's probably when they're using it because they think that you're not actually checking it, to use those resources to go do whatever they want for their, these little bots that they created. So you want to take a look at that. That's why those tools are important to run on a regular basis to see when that's happening. And the third one's going to be if your site starts breaking. Hackers are not very careful when it comes to your site. So they may be using a theme to get to your site, but in order for that to happen, they have to break your footer. Right. And so if you go one day and your site doesn't look like the way it should, and you know for a fact that no one has been messing with your site, no one has been making any changes, that is a really good tell sign of code has changed. Because websites are very dumb in the sense where they're not going to do something that they're not supposed to do. So it's telling you that like if images are getting larger, if things aren't working, it's because they are using that website again, either to get information from your site or just use those bots. And then the last one's going to be listen to your customers. Sometimes they may say, "Hey, Devin, I got I got that notification that I purchased this product from you, but I haven't purchased anything in a quarter." Listen to them and see what's going on. Don't immediately say, "Oh, it must have been something else." So anything out of the ordinary. That's why it's really important to have these checklists. So hey, that is normal. That's when it's a good idea to, again, talk to support in your hosting provider or use something like WordPress to take a look at your site.
Okay, awesome. The next question I have, let's see. We got a couple questions here still. When it comes to maintenance, you gave a couple tasks and things like that. The question they ask is, can I assign these maintenance tasks to a client or should I assign them to a team member?
Yeah, this is really important when you are now an agency or even just working on multiple branches. Let's say that you have 10 different yogurt stores, and you're trying to figure out who to do this with. Pick one person who's going to be technical, who's going to be the one that's going to do this. It's really important to make sure that somebody doesn't just say, "You know what, I'm going to be proactive this month. I'm going to go update our plugins and themes," and they don't know what's going on. So definitely want to assign this to one person and have a backup of who else can do this. People get sick, people leave jobs. You don't want your customer in charge of this. You want your customer to be in charge of the things that they do. You want to be doing the actual maintenance plans for them. So you definitely want to have somebody who can do that. You don't want necessarily your designer in charge of technical plugins in case they need to go and dive in a little bit more. So yeah, definitely want to have the ability to say, this is what you're doing, and be explicit with them. Sometimes you expect them to do it and you think that they're going to, but let them know, here, this is the checklist that we came up with. It's only going to take 15 minutes out of your whole week. Just make sure this is happening and let me know if anything comes up. That's going to be a really good workflow.
Awesome. One question, we had a couple people paying about specific plugins. So maybe you could just kind of quickly review how to tell if a plugin update is safe to install.
Yeah. Number one is going to be this. So this is going to be, I don't want to say lengthy answer, but this is going to be as thorough as you can get. Go to that website first. Go and see why they have an update. Actually, all good plugin developers are going to have a description. They're not just going to say, update us, it's time. They will say, due to PHP going up to PHP 8.4 from 8.3, we have updated our plugin to make sure it's compatible with 8.4. Right, they're going to give you that information. So go in there and see what's going on there. If you, a lot of them are also going to use the WordPress blog function to have comments. Read the comments, see what people are saying, see if they're saying, hey, this one broke it. And then you start seeing, oh, well, it's because you have this gallery one, those kind of things. So do a little bit of research beforehand. That's going to make sure that that it's working out really well. This answer, it's kind of sad that it's true, but if you're paying for it, it's probably going to work really well. So while there are a lot of free plugins, they don't have a reason to keep things as up to date. It may be, and I have friends who have built WordPress plugins for unique problems that they had, but it isn't making them any money, and they haven't updated them in 3 or 4 years. So spend the money on finding those reputable ones that are going to give you more and more information about them. And then just as important, if something goes wrong, you should be able to contact them. It is not just a one-way street. You could contact them and say, hey, when I update it to this is what happened. Really good ones are going to say, can you send me a screenshot of this? Can you send me the screenshot of your dashboard? Let's just take a look at it, because what they want to do is they want to fix it, not just for you, but for their next customers. So going to different plugins that are going to have a premium support, and you're going to have to pay for that. Usually it's not very much. It's going to be enough for that, state of mind of knowing that things are going to be help to you when you need it.
Awesome. And I saw someone ask this in a slightly different way, so I kind of reword it a little bit. But would you say it's good or bad practice to just take a backup and then run the automated plugins, and then if nothing's broken, like that means you're fine? Or do you recommend, like, every single time there's a plugin to go and look through and read the logs and read why it's happening every single time for every plugin?
If you want to live wild, do the clone, right? Just have your staging site, push the button, right? Like, it may be great, because you may only have 5 plugins, and if they all work, then good, you saved yourself some time, right? But if you do it again on that staging site, not on your live site, because that will, be, especially if you don't have a backup on that staging site, go in there, push it. Hey, that worked. All right. Go around your website, make sure everything's working. Remember what functionality those plugins were having. So, using that contact form analogy again, go to your contact form, submit a contact form, and see if it's working. If it is, great, you got away with one, right? That's that. We're not here just to work, just to add different things. But if things don't work out as you expected, then say, okay, great, delete that clone site. It's very easy to do with most hosts. Create a new one, then go one by one. And then you'll see, okay, great, it was that 4th one. It was that gallery one that is changing the way it's using the React infrastructure down to something else. So that's what's happening. Great. Let me either go and find another one, reach out to that developer to get your answers, so on and so forth.
Awesome. We still have a few more minutes here. Let's see. Someone asked, are free backup tools reliable enough for a small business?
They are reliable enough, but the functionality you may get won't be as thorough. So what the free ones, what they mostly are going to do is going to say, we are just an API that are going to send a copy of your website to your Dropbox or your Google Drive. They want that information there, because if they're just doing it for their set, if they're using it on their servers, they're either doing it for free because they want you to go to the premium one, which is fine, or they're having you send it to your own resources, because why would they pay for the server for them to host that? So some of the free ones are going to do that, and it's going to potentially mean that the migration back won't be as thorough or as clean as that one-click restore. So a lot of the times you're paying not just for the functionality, but for the storage. So if your site is static and it doesn't change but twice a year, then sure, right? Use a plugin that's going to just send a copy over to your Dropbox, your Google Drive, your Amazon server, anything like you needed there, and then you'll be fine. But if you're using this on a pretty regular basis, your site's more dynamic, you want to find something that is going to have, again, not only the functionality, but they're going to have their own backups there.
Awesome. And we have 1 or 2 more questions. Before we get to them, I'm just going to advance the slide so we can see a few more of the resources if people have additional questions they want to ask or get some additional reading from Bluehost, then these are available here. Okay, let's see. This question is a little bit more about agencies. The question is, what should a client maintenance report include to show real results?
Yeah, this is a really great question. Usually, an agency is brought on by a customer because they need a new website. Sometimes the agreement may be once you build out, the website, that's the end of that relationship. But what you want to do as an agency, and for those young agencies out there, can always have more conversations about this offline. But you want to give them additional help. And this isn't just, oh, how do I charge them for something on a monthly basis so I can make more revenue? It's how do you make yourself more helpful? So really good reports are going to have the if you have a service contract that says we're going to update content, so you can say this month we updated 10 different web pages with 5 different content blocks, which took 3 hours to do. We also updated all plugins, which included 5 that were crucial, 2 that were feature updated, and got the theme updated as well. You give them that information, they're going to feel a whole lot better about what you're charging them on a monthly basis, outside of what some agencies can sometimes say is, well, we're just making sure that the site's alive and so on. And so you want to make sure you do that. And a really good thing to do is, if you're an agency, is always evaluate who your hosting partner is to see how much of that work that hosting provider is doing for you. Number one, so you have not necessarily just less work to do, but you know that it's being done, and you if you take a day off, a week off, that isn't going to go away. So always ensure you have a good hosting provider that's going to back up those promises that you're making to your customers.
Awesome. And this is the last question. We only have about a minute left. So the question is, what are the advantages of using Bluehost built-in tools for managing updates across sites?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Think of it as the team that you have back there, right? If you just go and download a backup tool on your own, then you're relying on that person. They don't have a dog in the fight, really. If your customer is working really well, or if you're having a good experience, you've paid them the one-time fee, and that's good. They have given you something that's done. With some of the managed solutions that Bluehost has, we have teams that are dedicated just for this. Our tools aren't just set as when you purchase them. They are constantly being updated. You know that you have somebody that if something does happen, you need to go into support. They have access to that information. It's going to streamline the process a whole lot more, because it's all within the environment. And good hosts are going to be able to know which tools work best with their servers and give you those recommendations, like I was saying about not having too many caching plugins, because we know what our servers look like and what WordPress typically does. So our caching plugin does X, Y, and Z. So then they just give you those different advice. So just having somebody in your corner that's going to be able to do that for you is always going to help a whole lot more than not.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that brings us to the end of today's webinar. Christian, I wanted to thank you again for joining us today, and I really appreciate the knowledge and experience you shared with us. And also to everyone that participated and joined, thank you so much. And we hope we'll catch you next time. Thanks, everybody. Bye.